Welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Extension. The population projection made by ORGI observes that in 2021 India's estimated population would be 1.36 billion. India occupies only 2.4% of global land. India is the largest populated country in the world, followed by China. However, World Population Prospects 2022 suggests that India will surpass China as the world's most populous country in 2023. India was always a populous country and historically a substantial proportion of global population live in India. Historical demographer Tim Dyson estimates that the population of the Indus Valley civilization was around 4 to 6 million people. And that was far greater than the populations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and China. At that time, discovery of Indus Valley civilization throws light on well-developed urban system in the west and northwestern part of this land. Though evidences of size of the population, life and livelihoods are available from the ancient text like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Arthashastra by Kautilya, India lacked systematic data collection until the introduction of modern census in 1872. The scholars relied upon indirect evidences and estimations to find out the size of the population of the subcontinent in the absence of a population count. After reading to this unit, learners will be able to 1. Describe population distribution. 2. Explain growth pattern of population. 3. Dictate the regional variation therein. 4. Narrate the political implications of population size. 5.2 Population trends. Many population scholars have explained population trends as per their experience and study outputs. Tim Dyson, noted demographer, in his monumental task on history of population in India, estimates that Indian population was 4 to 6 million about 4,000 years ago, growing to 35 million, 187 million, and 389 million at the beginning of the Christian era, 1800 and 1941 respectively. Table 5.1 and Figure 5.1 depicts the proportion of India's population over global population. It shows that prior to 1800, the share of India's population to the global population was fluctuating. The global population started growing at a faster rate after 1800 and the proportion of India's population has shown a steady decline till 1930. India's population growth was quite faster since it has got independence. Thus, 1950 onwards again the share of India's population started increasing, and since 2000, it has been steadily sharing little more than 17% of the global population. 5.2.1 Data sources. Major data source for understanding population growth and distribution pattern in India is the population census. Population census was first conducted in 1872, when different parts of the country took part in population counting at different point of time. This census is termed as non-synchronized census. However, since 1891 population census in India was a decennial activity till 2011. This provided a rich and consistent data source about the population of India. Prior to 1872 population census, there was not much systematic efforts in data collection is observed. Depending upon the requirement of the kingdom, some have estimated the population, agricultural land etc. essentially for revenue generation purpose. However, the population census is interrupted in 2021 because of COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 is a highly infectious and fatal disease which has engulfed almost all the countries in the world. Considering its fatality, 2021 population census was put on hold. However, Office of the Registrar General of India, ORGI, who is otherwise responsible for conducting population census, has provided projected population figure for the states and UTs of India, which has been incorporated in this study. 5.3 Growth of population of India. According to Kingsley Davis, India's population remained almost stationary since 1800 at around 125 million for about 50 years. The period between 1871 and 1901 is stable population period when size of the population did not increase much. The birth rate was almost same as death rate and both were high. This decade had several famines. A little respite from famines was there in the next decade. Between 1901 and 1911, population increased by about 158 lakh. Dyson observes that there were relatively little variation in the average level of fertility from decade to decade. Women had slightly less than 6 live births each. The main reason of the addition of 158 lakh during this decade is attributed to increase in population was due to less number of large-scale famines resulting into considerably lower death rate. However, there were few local famines. The worst was the decade 1911 to 1921. In the period of 1911 to 1921, due to occurrence of plague in Bengal and Bombay presidencies, plague and malaria in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab, population again reduced by about 7 lakh. Influenza epidemic alone in 1918 caused 140 lakh deaths in the country. Apart from that, the small outbreaks of epidemics like cholera, malaria, plague, and smallpox were also prevalent in the absence of medical and sanitation facilities. Moreover, thousands of soldiers lost their lives during the First World War, 1914 to 1918, and shortage of food caused by severe droughts in the years of 1911, 1913, 1915, 1918 and 1920. The year 1921 is known as the Year of Great Divide because it distinguishes the previous era of checkered population growth to moderately increasing population growth. The history of population growth in India since 1891 divides the country into three natural parts, the point of division being 1921, 1951 and 1981 respectively. Premi. Et al. 1983. During the period 1921 to 1931, population increased by about 276 lakh. The census of 1931 and 1941 recorded an increase of about 28 and 40 per million respectively. In 1951, total population was recorded to the extent of 361 million, i.e. 42 million increase over 1941 year. During the 30 years between 1921 and 1951, the increase amounted to 109 million or an average 3.63 million a year. The period between 1921 and 1951 is known for fast growth of population. The rate of population growth fluctuated between 1.0 and 1.35% per annum. Between 1901 and 1951, the population increased by 12.3 crore, and between 1951 and 2001, the population increased by more than 5 times, or 66.6 crore. The period between 1951 and 1981 is considered as the period of fastest growth of population, and each decade recorded higher growth rate than its previous decade. Population increase was much faster than estimated as there were relatively better food availability than the previous decades. There was also little disease outbreaks, and attention was paid for improved healthcare. There was no major uncertainties and war, except some border issues with Pakistan and China. 1951 was the first census after India achieved independence, and enthusiast attention was paid to nation building by introducing 5-year plan outline for development. Increased attention was paid towards economic development and well-being. However, it was realized that the pace of development is not at par with the increase of population. There was tremendous international pressure on India to contain its population growth. During this period, in fact, the global south started observing a high population growth rate. India, being one of the largest in terms of population size, was influencing the global population trend. Thus, family planning program, which was adopted by the government of India in 1950, tried different approaches to reach to larger population at shortest period. The Neo-Malthusian doctrine took a center stage in population discourse. The then Congress government imposed internal emergency on the ground of internal disturbances. Coercive sterilization was introduced as a technocratic solution to curb the population growth, which was thought to be prerequisite for eradication of poverty. Millions were forcibly sterilized during June 1975 to March 1977. Following the emergency, in 1977 there was Lok Sabha general election where ruling Congress government lost their majority. The newly elected government, to remove the fear of coercive sterilization from the mind of the people, put all the excess of family planning, program implementation on hold. The growth momentum continued for some more time before showing definite sign of decline in it. Till now the growth rate is constantly declining. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, the population census of 2021 was postponed. However, the report of the Technical Group on Population Projections provides the estimated projected population of India is 1.36 billion. As on the 1st of March 2021, Table 5.2. Table 5.2, Population Growth of India, 1901 to 2021. Look at the screen. Since 1901, population of India continuously increased except between 1911 and 1921. The year 1921 is known as the year of Great Divide because it shows negative growth rate. There were various local famines occurred during 1901 to 1911 such as plague in Bengal and Bombay presidencies, plague and malaria in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab. It is already mentioned earlier that the decline in population size during 1911 to 1921 happened because of influenza epidemic and death of 7% of the total population of India. The year 1951 recorded high growth rate than it was in previous 3 decades. Death rate has shown substantial decline owing to improvement in health facility. This has resulted into high growth rate leading to doubling of population by 1981. It is only 1981 onwards India's growth rate started declining steadily. Even when there is a steady decline in growth rate, the population continues to grow for certain period, which typically is a phenomenon of population momentum. 5.4 Demographic transition in India. On the basis of the trend discussed above, the phases of demographic transition may be identified as follows. Figure 5.3. Stages of demographic transition in India. Look at the screen. Phase 1. Period of stagnant population, 1901 to 1921. It has already been observed that this period was experiencing low or negative growth due to poor health condition, First World War and famines. The importance of development of public health was realized as British Emperor was facing threat from the European communities to control infectious diseases in their colonies. Phase 2. Period of steady growth, 1921 to 1951. The result of the development of public health system, steady agricultural growth, and government intervention in improving the life of the people immediately produced fruit for development. The subcontinent started observing slow but steady growth of population. Even though the phase experienced Second World War, India's war for independence and partition of the subcontinent, the growth rate never reached negative after 1921. Phase 3. Period of rapid population growth, 1951 to 1981. India started to take control over the development process with new zeal after getting independence. It was a period free from epidemic, famines and wars. The peace was reflected in the decline in mortality at a much faster rate than fertility. Moreover, this is the time when population issues have become decisive political factor. Phase 4. Period of high population growth rate with a definite sign of slowing down, 1981 to 2011. During this time period, first time since independence, the growth rate started declining and reached well below 2% per annum. The decline in growth rate was uninterrupted till date, though the population growth pattern, to some extent, fits with the stages identified in demographic transition model. The stages of development hardly coincides with birth and death transition in India. The control over high mortality was achieved by importing life-saving medical technology. Even fertility control was also achieved through different family planning initiatives. Thus, demographic transition was not organically synchronized with the stages of development in India as it is seen for the Western European countries where the theory was tested. 5.5 Regional variation in population growth. Though the country's population growth can be divided into 4 phases, the growth pattern and changes therein are never uniform across the states of India. Since independence, North Indian states have shown continuously higher growth rate, whereas growth rate was higher for the southern state during pre-independence period. Kerala, for instance, experienced the highest growth rate among the southern states both during 1951 to 61 and during 1961 to 71. However, since then Kerala's decadal growth rate has come down from 26.29% to 9.42% in 1991. 2001. Decadal growth rate for Tamil Nadu was as high as 22.30% during 1961 to 71, and the state took nearly 40 years to bring down its decadal growth rate to 11.19% in 1991 to 2001. There are several states and UTs in India which has shown lower population growth rate than the country's average. Among the states, Kerala and Goa has alarmingly low population growth rate in the latest census decade of 2001 to 2011. Among the major states, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, NCT of Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, Jharkhand and Rajasthan still have more than 20% decadal growth rate of population. The states namely Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Goa, Himachal Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Odisha, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal has recorded much lower than 20% decadal growth even during 1991 to 2001. Only Chhattisgarh is an interesting case where decadal growth rate was less than 20% during 1991 to 2001 but increased to more than 20% during 2001 to 2011. A large number of states have shown more than 5 points decline in their decadal growth rate between 1991 to 2001 and 2001 to 2011. Most prominent among them are NCT of Delhi, Chandigarh, Goa, Haryana, Jammu and Kashmir and Rajasthan. 5.6 Regional variation in population distribution. Regional variation in the distribution of population in India will be discussed in terms of total population size in the states and UTs, and in terms of population density. The population of India is very unevenly distributed over 28 states and 8 UTs of India. Uttar Pradesh is the most populous state in the country, table 5.4. The state alone is of the size of Brazil and Ecuador together. Bihar is the third most populous state and its population size is equivalent to that of Mexico in 2022. These two states comprise more than one-fourth population of the country. Size and density of the population is determined by the livability of a place. Geographical endowment is primary condition that support a population size of a geographical region. That is why the states located in the Indus-Ganga-Brahmaputra plain are highly populated, whereas the Himalayan states of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and all the northeastern states barring Assam are having less than 1% each of country's total population. There are as high as 18 states and UTs are having lesser population than the NCT of Delhi, which was earlier a UT. Lakshadweep is the smallest in terms of population size according to the projected population figure of 2021, 5.6.2 population age structure. Population age structure is one of the most important reflection of the past natural growth rate. The states of India reflect wide demographic variations in their past history and present characteristics. The states lie in different stages of demographic transition, which simple can be reflected once median age is glanced through. Higher median age is an indication towards a demographic structure dominated by the elderly population. At the same time, median age below 20 years clearly indicates of young age structure expecting high fertility rate. According to 2011 census, Kerala was the oldest with a median age of 31.9 years. However, population projection shows that Tamil Nadu will be the oldest in 2036 with median age of 45 years, when Kerala will have median age of 39.6 years. In fact, in 2036 only Bihar will have median age below 30 years, 28.1 years. Median age reflects the prospects of larger labor force in Bihar when most of the state are going to face a crunch in labor force. 5.6.3 Population density of the states and UTs. Population density is actually a measure of number of people in a unit of area. This is an indication towards the analysis of the facts depicting the places where people usually choose to live. However, there are several methods for measuring the population density. They are as follows: arithmetic density, physiological density, and agricultural density. In the present context, the arithmetic density is calculated and discussed. India's population density is 382 per square kilometer, but even in this there is wide range of variation. Population density of the states and UTs ranges from 11,320 per square kilometer in NCT of Delhi to 17 per square kilometer in Arunachal Pradesh. Though Uttar Pradesh is highly populous state, it lags behind NCT of Delhi, Chandigarh, Bihar behind NCT of Delhi, Chandigarh, Bihar. Kerala, West Bengal in terms of density, which is measured as persons per square kilometer. The population density is the highest in NCT of Delhi, making it the most crowded place in India. Kerala was the most densely populated states of India in 1991, which was toggled by West Bengal in 2001 and by Bihar in 2011. The basic differences between arithmetic and physiological densities. Arithmetic density, also known as real density, is very simply the total number of people divided by the total land area. Physiological density is the number of people per unit area of arable land. Arable describes land that is suitable for growing crops. The third one is agricultural density, is the proportion of total rural population and area of the arable land. A high agricultural density may mean that a country has inefficient agriculture. 5.7 The National Population Policy (NPP) of 2000. The National Population Policy (NPP) of 2000 identified three primary urgent causes for population rise. There is a relatively big fraction of the population in the reproductive age range, so even if total fertility rate declines, overall population growth will still be substantially high, and this problem is compounded by child marriage. Due to child marriage, a woman is more exposed to the reproductive age range, that is why fertility rate become high. Unwanted and frequent pregnancies are linked to healthcare and education gaps. Desire of male child. The NPP estimates that the desire for a boy child accounts about 60% of India's population growth rate. Uncertainty among families about how many of their children will really live till old age is reflected in the high IMR. India's 20% growth rate can be attributed to the country's high IMR. Low percentages of the population use birth control and contraception. 20% of India's growth rate may be attributed to this. In addition to this, the rapid population growth rate is caused by poverty and ignorance. As identified in NPP 2000, 5.8 Political implications of population size. After getting independence and after adopting a multi-party democratic political system, India adopted for universal franchise for all adults. The multi-layered political system has Lok Sabha at top and panchayats at the bottom, with state assembly in between. In every layer, number of people's representatives are decided on the basis of population size. As per Article 82 of the Constitution of India, there has to be readjustment of seats after each census, every 10 years, and such adjustment should be based on the population. However, this was not done after 1971 census because of the 42 ND amendment to the Constitution that made widespread changes in the Constitution during emergency days in 1976. Population control and family planning was included in the concurrent list with this amendment. The government of that day was keen on promoting family planning and to control population growth. Hence, provisions were included in Articles 55, 82, 170 and 330 of the Constitution not to make any changes to the number of Lok Sabha seats, assembly seats etc. until the figures from the first census after the year 2000 have been published. This was done as a measure to boost family planning norms and not to reward the non-performing states by awarding more political representations. In other words, any readjustment to the total number of seats had to take place only after the year 2000, when the 2001 census figures would be published. For this purpose, in India, Delimitation Commission or a Boundary Commission has been constituted from time to time. However, the Delimitation Commission in their recent work in 2008 did not change the number of assembly and parliamentary representation of the states and UTs, but only readjusted the boundaries and readjusted the number of reserved seats for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. The commission further extended the freezing of the constituencies till 2026. If total population size is considered for 2031, i.e., the nearest census year after 2026, then total Lok Sabha seats would be 848. According to the projected population size and representation according to population size, Uttar Pradesh would have 91 Lok Sabha seats, as opposed to the present 80, and Kerala would have the 12 seats that it has now. 5 major states of South India together would lose 26 seats, whereas Bihar alone will gain 10 seats and Uttar Pradesh 11 seats. Thus, it is assuming that it will create political imbalance in the Lok Sabha. Moreover, it is also said that the best performing states will be punished instead of getting rewarded. 5.9 Summary. Population size, growth and distribution has immense implications for development. However, it carries special relevance in a democratic country like India. Historical data for the country was not very rich, and thus scholars depended on indirect estimation to understand the size of the population until 1872. Since 1872, when first population census was conducted, India is providing nearly accurate estimates of population size in this subcontinent. Till 1921, India experienced a checkered growth pattern with not much increase in population size due to high mortality regimes related to epidemic, war and famines. However, 1921 to 1951 is the period of steady growth of population of India. After attaining independence, India experienced constant and very high population growth rate above 2% per annum till 1981. Only 1991 onwards India started observing a steady decline which has reached much below 2% per annum in current decade. Population size and density are extremely uneven in the country, mostly because of geographical condition of the livability in a particular region. Size and growth of the population has an implication in political representation by the states. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.